Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here, and this is the Samsung Galaxy S25 FE review. So let's go ahead and take a step back. The FE basically stands for Fan Edition. Basically what this device kind of pushes is flagship level features while giving us a more accessible price. Now obviously with that type of mindset, there will be some compromises, but they're not as bad as you think. Let's have a conversation. One of the main things that we have to talk about here in the beginning is the design itself, and they've made some welcomed refinement. The first one is this matte finish that replaces the glossy material on the previous generation, which feels better and it's less attracted to fingerprints. And another minor design change in my opinion is this sort of camera rings. So basically if you zoom in too close, you'll sort of see that the camera rings sort of protrude ever so slightly, and it's minor, but just something that I thought I would mention. Also, this phone did get thinner and lighter, so it comes in at 7.4 millimeters thin, and it is 190 grams. So that's also a thumbs up. You also still get your power button volume up and down on the right hand side, a faster charging speed on the USB-C, so you get a 45 watt of fast charging speed, and you also have your bottom facing speaker as well as your SIM tray. Now it still provides with IP68 water and dust resistance, and as far as materials, frame is made out of what they call armor aluminum frame, and you also get Gorilla Glass Victus Plus both on the front and the back of the display. And this phone comes in 4 colors. You get navy, icy blue, jet black, and white, giving you a couple of options if you're interested in all that. But overall though, the design itself, it's definitely welcome refinements, and it makes more difference than you think. So next in my conversation is the display. So the Samsung Galaxy S25 FE brings in a 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display that does support 120Hz of high refresh rate, and it is adaptive, and you get a high peak brightness of 1900 nits, which means that it has good visibility for outdoor conditions. But the main thing that they improved here is the size of the bezel, so you get a higher percentage screen to body ratio here than the previous generation. And that's also something that is definitely welcome and helps makes this phone a little bit more future proof. Now the biggest disappointment in my opinion is that in-display fingerprint sensor. It works, don't get me wrong, but to be honest with you, it's kind of slow. It's not really the fastest thing, or it still is reliable, but it's not really that fast. So the display on here is still a solid, really solid AMOLED display. It may not get crazy 3000 nits of peak brightness, but to be honest with you, for the average consumer, this is more than good enough, which means that watching videos, browsing the web, anything that would require you to essentially use this display would be an overall a really solid experience. So next in my conversation is the performance and the cooling that Samsung has done. So the S25 FE is using Samsung's proprietary silicon processors. So it's the Exynos 2400 based on a 4nm architecture. You also get 8 GB of RAM as well as 2 storage options, 128 and 256. But for the everyday tasks, this phone does very well. It's very fast, very smooth, just what you would expect. To be honest with you, this chipset is very competitive and very comparable, not to the Snapdragon 8 Elite obviously, but what it competes with is with the previous generation, which is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. And I found that out a little bit, I did a little bit of research, and when I did my synthetic benchmarks, I was able to get pretty similar, if not a little bit better scores than things like the S24 Ultra that did run the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. So single and multi-threaded performance on here by benchmarks are pretty good for the most part. And this phone, like I mentioned earlier, it does provide a 45 watt of fast charging. You also still get wireless charging available. As far as thermals, when it comes to playing games, especially higher demanding games, it does provide a larger vapor chamber that helps keep this phone under control as far as heating and thermals. The performance on here for the most part is very solid. I was able to push this phone and it worked like I wanted it and then some. So from a performance perspective, I don't think a lot of complaints would be found here. So overall, a thumbs up in that regard. Now in the next conversation, we do need to discuss the camera system here. So the Galaxy S25 FE does give us a triple camera setup, a 50 megapixel main sensor with optical image stabilization, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and an 8 megapixel telephoto with 3x optical zoom, and it can go up to 30x of digital zoom. Now the front facing camera is also improved to 12 megapixel from the 10 megapixel of the previous generation, and of course you get AI tools. So And it is also capable of shooting up to 8K video, which is insane. Even the iPhone 17 Pro Max can't do that, and that's a $1,200 phone. Now, when it comes to image quality itself, first of all, I will be doing a fully detailed dedicated camera review because I feel like this device does deserve it. But picture quality comes out very well, especially in good lighting conditions, and I guess that goes for a lot of phones nowadays. So the colors on here are slightly saturated, which is something that Samsung has been known to do, but they are vibrant, they do pop. They are very good overall. Even dynamic range on here, it seems to be also pretty good, and I feel like for the most part the average consumer is going to be more than happy with the capabilities of this camera. The ultra wide obviously is going to take a slight hit as far as quality, but still is a pretty solid overall. The selfie camera on here is also pretty good for the most part. And now let's go ahead and transition between day life and night life. And so in nighttime photography, this phone also does fine. It's not the greatest, and it never was meant to be, but it does handle its own, and the selfie camera is also very, very acceptable in nighttime photography. It does have a night mode that is aggressive, but that's basically what I have to say. So as far as the video capability goes in nighttime, the main camera is a little bit noisy, just what you would expect, but for the most part, honestly, it's okay. It does what it's expected. Even the selfie camera does take a fat hit because it's low resolution. It's not going to be the greatest. You can kind of see the noise and the quality is not up to par, but that's okay. And so what's the verdict on this device? So here's the thing. For many users, I feel like the S25 FE does offer very good value, premium design, really good display, longevity support as far as software, nice camera experience, better battery life, and overall, a almost complete device. So the compromises here are minimal. So it's not that dramatic that we were used to seeing whenever phone manufacturers decide to cut and make their devices cheaper. Shout out to the iPhone 16e. And so overall, for $650, you do get a really nice package from Samsung. It may not look dramatically different to that of the previous generation, but that's okay. To be honest, the improvements that they've made, I can deal with the same design for one more year. I'm fine with that. So the big question is this a phone that you're interested in getting? If you are, let me know. Leave it in the comments below. Would you like it? Would you hate it? Let me know what you think about this device, and I will catch you guys in the next one. I still have the camera review, and I still have comparisons between it, the 16e and the S25 FE and the standard S25. Stay tuned for those videos. They should be rolling out anytime. So thank you all so much for watching.